Once a bustling city of over 30 lakh people now has come to a standstill. Russia continues to rain missiles on key Ukrainian cities, including Kyiv. Amid the fresh set of shelling on Kyiv, a residential building collapsed in the capital. 2 people sustained injuries in the bombardment, while emergency services evacuated 35 others. Air raid alerts have been issued in several major cities, and sirens have been activated in Kyiv and Lviv, Dnipro, Odessa, Vinnytsia and Cherkasy. According to reports, loud explosions were heard in Kyiv's suburbs. A weapons factory in the capital city was heavily damaged in a Russian attack on Tuesday. Outside the factory, shopkeepers and helpers were seen sweeping up glass and other debris. The Ukrainian Ministry of Defense claimed Fox News journalists were killed in Russian firing. The camera person and producer were killed while the anchor lost his leg. Fox News in a statement has confirmed this news. Amid fear of the capital city, a curfew has been imposed in Kyiv for the next 36 hours.
І працювати кожному на своєму місці, кожному, в тому числі нашим представникам, нашій делегації у переговорах з Російською Федерацією. Це важливо. Складно, але важливо, тому що будь-яка війна завершується угодою. Зустрічі тривають. Як мені доповідають, позиції на переговорах звучать вже реалістичніше. Проте ще необхідний час, щоб рішення були в інтересах саме України. Вільний народ вільної країни, 8 років війни на Донбасі, 20 днів повномасштабного вторгнення, 3-й тиждень закінчується. Ми всі хочемо миру, якнайшвидше. Ми всі хочемо перемоги. І постійно є таке відчуття, що ще трохи. І ми здобудемо те, що належить саме нам, Україні, по праву. Але ще потрібні зусилля, потрібне терпіння, ще потрібно боротися. І працювати кожному на своєму місці, кожному, в тому числі нашим представникам, нашій делегації у переговорах з Російською Федерацією. Це важливо. Складно, але важливо, тому що будь-яка війна завершується угодою. Зустрічі тривають. Як мені доповідають, позиції на переговорах звучать вже реалістичніше. Від артилерійського удару російських військ загинули ще 2 журналістів. Українка Олександра Кувшинова та представник американської Fox News П'єр Загржевський. Ще 1 журналіст важко поранений. Обстріл стався у Київській області. І це ще одна вагома причина, щоб посилювати західні санкції проти Російської Федерації.
A bench on Cruciatic Street. The street which used to be full of people in the heydays, just before the war started, this street is full of people all the time. There are a lot of very nice bars, restaurants in the street, very big showrooms of all expensive things coming from Europe and all parts of the world. And right now, this street is totally deserted. You hardly see anyone in this street. There is going to be a complete curfew in Kyiv city from 8 p.m. today, that is 1 hour from now, till day after morning 8 o'clock. 60 hours complete curfew. Nobody is allowed to move out in these 60 hours, not even the press. And the reason for that, one could be because the shelling of the city has increased by the Russian forces. Maybe to avoid people getting hurt by this shelling could be one reason. But the more important reason, I think, is that there are a lot of special forces people from Russian army who are in the city, who entered the city before the war started. And there are also suspected Russian agents here, which can do sabotage activities, can create disruption anywhere, because the Ukrainian army will be busy now on the outskirts of the city fighting the Russian army, and that is the time these special forces people and these agents are likely to create sabotage activities and likely to get active. Besides this, in Kyiv city, the situation as of now is quite calm. For last 6 hours, no bombing, no air raids, no missiles whatsoever, unlike in the morning today when there were 2 big explosions and then shelling heard almost continuously for 1 to 2 hours. Now it is relatively calm, but that does not mean that everything is okay. Just 11 kilometers away from city on the outskirts, Russian army and Ukrainian army are fighting with each other. It's a fierce fighting going on. We cannot hear that in the city center right now, but it is going on as I'm talking to you. And it's a fierce fight for Kyiv now, because Russian army is slowly inching towards Kyiv, and they are almost on the at the entrance of the city now. So that is the reason probably this curfew has been declared, and that is the situation now in Kyiv city. This is Rajesh Pawar reporting from Kyiv city for India Today.
Marina,
What do you think is the situation of birds and animals in this war?
I think the situation in Ukraine it's not good because
Look in the camera, please.
more people left their pets on house and another place, and sometimes there are go out their pets to the play yard. I don't know in English.
Yeah.
And I think it's not normal. Because pets don't have eat, pets don't...
They don't have food. You mean they don't have food?
Israel don't have food. And I have now cats, one cat in my house, and I don't know what this cat, but I think this is cat who lived in a house.
Well, as Russia closes in on Kyiv, Mayor Vitaly Klitschko has called on civilians to camp in bunkers as a precautionary measure. Listen in to what he said.
We see the result of bombing. Civilian people died. Last morning we was one district of Bologna where people killed. Today another apartments building. We don't know exactly the numbers of people. We have not entrance to every floor, but right now close to 50 people actually evacuate. A lot of them injured. We give the full support to everyone. I call to everyone, every civilian, please spend the time, if it's possible, in bunkers.
Well, we also spoke to British journalist Tim Judah. Let's listen in to that report.
Tim, we see that Ukrainians have been using what they have to put up stiff resistance. But as much as we say is short, Russia is massive when it comes to the numbers on ground. Their arms and ammunition certainly cannot be matched at the moment. We're seeing in just days to come that there could be an imminent attack on Kiev, and that's what's expected. As this said, is there any more help coming in from the countries that you listed out for Ukraine? Any more that is coming in the way?
Well, I mean, I don't know if there's any more military help, but, I would point out the fact that the Russians expected that Ukraine would collapse within 2 or 3 days. It hasn't collapsed. And apart from a few very small towns, which were not really defended in the south, they haven't taken any major urban centers. They have failed to take Mariupol, even though they've pulverized it. They have failed to take Kharkiv, and they've failed to take any other population center. So, they are not doing as well as they expected, and we're already in the third week of the war. And don't forget that Ukrainian forces are highly motivated. They're fighting on their own ground, and they're also highly mobile, unlike the Russian forces, which are sort of not mobile at all, really, and tend to come in sort of big convoys. And the Russians have had enormous logistical problems, all sort of tanks and stuff just breaking down, running out of fuel. So they may have a lot of tanks, they may have a lot of trucks, but if they sort of break down, if their tires are rotten because they haven't been maintained, well, the numbers are not so important.
Right. Tim, as much as Russia claims that their target is not civilians, we hear Ukraine has now claimed that over 100 children have been killed in this war, and that's tragic. 400 education institutions, several hospitals have been literally decimated. That's the kind of damage that we see on civilian establishments, and that leaves us really worried for the future of civilians who have decided to stay back in Ukraine.
Well, yes, but that's the Russian tactics. That's what they did in Grozny in Chechnya, and that's what they did in Syria. The last 2 days I've been to apartment blocks which have been attacked. I mean, I saw yesterday a 16-story apartment, a whole apartment block on fire. All the flats in that apartment block were destroyed. Everybody's lost their homes. There were a couple of dead from that attack. So, I mean, yes, absolutely, that's what's happening.
Tim, while this war takes place and while there is some kind of advancement from Russian forces, they've continued to bombard several areas of Ukraine. Parallelly, there are talks being held between the two nations, but not much headway. If you can give us an understanding into what's the step down that Ukrainian President Zelensky has taken, or any kind of compromise that he's mulling over to stop this war at the earliest.
Well, he's been saying that Ukraine could pull back on it could compromise on its request to join NATO, and that is in fact embedded in the constitution of Ukraine. In a way, though, it's kind of it's not so important because NATO members were never going to take Ukraine, and especially now. So he's sort of perhaps hinting that he's about to give away something which they didn't have anyway. What's much harder is that the Russians, as far as we understand it, want Ukraine to agree to the loss of large chunks of territory in the east of the country, and to the recognition of Crimea, which the Russians illegally occupied and annexed in 2014. And for now, I don't see any movement from the Ukrainians on that, or why they would compromise on that, because they're doing well in the battlefield. As I say, the Russians haven't taken any major urban centers. They've become bogged down, and their economy has now been chopped out of really pretty much the global economy. So economically, they're going the way of Iran and North Korea. So the Ukrainians have every reason to sort of to hold back and go slow, because it's not just what's happening on the battlefield; it's what's happening on the economic and international sanctions front as well.
Relentless attacks, bombardments and civilian killings. The gory side of destruction has become synonymous to Russia-Ukraine war, even as Ukraine continues to defend their motherland for 21 days. Missile attacks in Kyiv and strikes in Lviv paint a truly disturbing picture of the war front. Here's more.
Death and destruction everywhere. From capital city Kyiv,
a complete building has been destroyed, and there was another blast which I saw just before this. It was in the middle of a road. Nearby buildings were damaged, but it fell on a broad road, so not much casualties. But here, I believe, few people have died and a lot of them were injured.
To Ukraine's western city of Lviv.
Air raid sirens up again, blaring in the city of Lviv. People have been going into the bomb shelters. Not many, quite a few of the apartments over here do not have bomb shelters, but the parking and the basements are where they're moving.
Russian missiles are raining misery. This 4-story residential building in Kharkiv was reduced to rubble in seconds, killing at least 2 people. Ukraine has alleged Russian airstrikes have made evacuation attempts dangerous. The relentless Russian assault and the West's risk-averse assistance has forced Ukraine to climb down. The country has reaffirmed it will not join NATO.
4 high-rise buildings in Kyiv were bombed this morning. Dozens of people were dead. They shell schools and universities. It is clear that Ukraine is not a member of NATO. We understand that. We are rational people. For years, we have heard about the alleged open door policy, but we have already heard that we will not go in there.
While Russian forces are advancing, the war is proving a costly affair for Moscow. The UK has imposed sanctions on 370 more Russian elites. Other US allies are also expanding sanctions to cover more Russian firms and oligarchs.
It's important for Canadians and the world to know that Canada will continue supporting Ukraine and its independence, integrity, sovereignty, including its right to defend itself.
Russia has hit back. It has vowed to reduce dependence on the West.
We will solve the problem. And the solution will be to no longer depend on our Western partners, be it governments or companies that are acting as tools of Western political aggression against Russia instead of pursuing the interest of their businesses. We will make sure that we never again find ourselves in a similar situation and that neither some Uncle Sam nor anybody else can make decisions aimed at destroying our economy. We'll find a way to eliminate this dependence. We should have done it long ago.
Since the start of the war, hundreds of civilians have lost their lives to Russian bombings. 2.8 million people have fled the war in search of safe zones. The 5 rounds of talks have so far failed to yield a ceasefire. Bureau Report, India Today.
The Russian military might has met a resilient Ukrainian army. Putin's forces have suffered some bitter blows in the 3 weeks of the war. So far, 4 top Russian commanders have been killed in Ukraine. Here's a report.
Armed to the teeth, tough, ruthless, the Russian military is one of the most intimidating forces in the world. But the Ukrainian resistance has been equally fierce. Ukraine has inflicted enough injury on the aggressor. Another top Russian commander, Major General Oleg Mityaev, has been killed. He died during a fierce battle with Ukrainian troops in Mariupol. He was the commander of 150th Motorized Rifle Division. This is not the first blow for the Russians in this war. Earlier, a key commander of the Russian tank regiment, Colonel Andrei Zakharov, was eliminated in Kyiv after a heavy fight. Zakharov was a recipient of the Order of Courage from Putin himself in 2016.
And staying with this, Polish people have come together to help Ukrainian refugees, women and children. These Polish volunteers have gathered at the Warsaw bus stand and are donating clothes, food and trams for those in need. Take a look at this ground report.
Right here in Poland at the bus stand, another story to tell of how people in Poland have come together to donate these prams and clothes for all those who are reaching here from Ukraine. Mothers who must have left the perambulators, the prams behind and are carrying their children. For them, these prams and the clothes have been kept. They can come and collect it from here. In Warsaw, Geeta Mohan for India Today.
Yeah, and here's the point where we give them everything what they need. Like we have clothes, shoes, food, drink.
Prams.
Yeah, basically everything for them, and trying to help them find them place to stay, helping them to gain the trains which they need or buses.
India Today has been getting you all the images of havoc and devastation from day 1 of the Russian invasion. Images on your screen show the most haunting images from the last 3 weeks of the Russian invasion.